The end is nigh. The end of model railways. The death of this our beloved hobby. Recently, we've had the unfortunate closure of Hattons model railways and the Warley National Model Railway Club exhibition, both of which have been institutions for 30 years and on. All too often we are now seeing the death of the hobby put firmly at the feet of cost. It's too expensive, models are going up and up and up. The cost just to be at an exhibition, never mind run it and everything else, even if you're just a lowly punter like me, or if you're one of the exhibitors, or even a trade stand or something, the cost to be there is astronomical, and it's not from greed or profiteer, it's just trying to not make a loss. But I ask you, this was part of a conversation that me and a friend were having recently, is cost actually the reason there is no new blood coming into the hobby? It's all very easy and convenient to blame it on cost and the way that the economy's going and things like that. No kids can. What kid can afford to go out and buy a £200 Batman? Blah 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 blah. The answer is no kid, unless you're obviously a millionaire's child. But your average family, your average kid, even I would even go as far to say as even your middle to upper class child, 10, 12, that sort of, cannot afford to go out and buy a £200-300 model. That is because it is usually bought for them by their parents. I absolutely know that my first monorail was bought for me by mum and dad. We went to BT's in Leeds town centre in the mid-90s, and I got a 4-car HST set, and it was absolutely wonderful. But that's me. I didn't want anything else in 1994. That was it. And that's because my dad worked at British Rail, so I had that upbringing with trains. I've always been around trains, I've always been around railways and the bits and pieces, the ins and outs and what have you. I didn't want anything else. That's all I wanted. Yes, I had a Sega Mega Drive and all that, but let's make a comparison, shall we? That's me growing up, I was into trains. What if you're not a kid growing up? What if you're not into trains? What if you don't have a family or friend or relative that's on the railways or whatever, and to you trains are just a thing that never turned up on time, always late, and cost a fortune to ride on? Not much of an incentive to get involved with the hobby then, is there really? If you look at the media and they're always striking, and there's not much reason to get into the hobby if you've not already got a pre-existing interest. What most kids are into these days, video games, your computers, PlayStations, Xboxes, Nintendo GameCubes and all the rest of it, everything else. Yes, I know the GameCube's old, shush. Look at the cost, and this is why I would actually agree with this viewpoint. It's not necessarily my viewpoint per se, but I would agree with it, and I can see why it makes sense. You look at the cost of your average starter console pack, so you get your console, a controller, and usually 1 or 2 very poor quality games or launch titles, and they're far from a AAA title at that. That's what you usually get. And the cost of that, 1 second, my train is getting too fast, so I'm just slow it down. The end game is like that, by the way. It's lovely, isn't it, just having trains chasing each other. Anyway, so back onto the point. You look at your average cost of a console starter pack, console, controller, and 1 or 2 games. You're looking in the region of between £400 and £600, depending on the console you get and the games you get and everything else. But that's it. That's before you look at online services or anything like that, Xbox Live or PlayStation Network or whatever. That is what you pay for. And that's it. You play your launch title game for maybe a week, 2 weeks, and you'll get bored of it because they are very, very poor quality indeed, usually. And so Junior goes to Mummy and Daddy and says, Mummy, Daddy, can I have a new game, please? And they go, of course you can, Junior. Let's go to the video game shop or go online. And there you will find games, usually, if you want a AAA title, something like a Halo or a Battlefield or No Man's Sky, something like that, whatever, right? You will find the game costs between 60 and about 50, 60, 70 quid for the base game. What video games have these days for the uninitiated is things called download content. You can expand the game. Some people have the view that actually that is the full game and you're just paying to add bits and pieces to it. So let's say, of course, you really love the game and you want all the download content. Depending on the game and depending on the content and platform, your £60 game can quite easily become a £150, £200 game. And that's just one game. That's just one game. You add another game, second game, and it's quite easy to get yourself up to £1,000. Now, because you do this in increments and bits and pieces, you don't tend to know, I keep checking the trends, you don't tend to notice the cost because it's spread out a little bit. It's spread out a little bit. If you took £1,000 and spent that on a railway, you would have an absolute ball of a time. You'd have between 4 and 5 sound fitted locomotives, maybe even 6 if you're on an N-gauge or a smaller scale. You'd have a big expanse of track, points and scenery and all that. £1,000. When I got my first starter set, it didn't cost me £1,000. If I remember correctly, it was about 150 quid, maybe 100 quid from Argos or Beatties or wherever it was. My mum and dad got it from eventually. 100 quid, and that was back in the 90s. So, based on that argument alone, can you genuinely put the slowing down of the hobby on cost? I don't think you can if you sit there and think about it. I mean, truly think about it. I don't think cost is the actual reason the hobby's dying. When Hattons closed their doors and when the Warley Model Railway Club said we're doing this anymore, they both mentioned ageing demographics. Retirees, they're getting older and people are dying off, and because there's no interest in the hobby from the younger generation, there's no one to sell things to. Kids these days are more interested in having the latest iPhone at £400, £500, £1,000, or the latest smartwatch, or any number of gadgets and bits and pieces that they have to have as status symbols because everyone at school's got one. I need to have one, so I'll get picked on. And that is the sad reality of it. If you're the one kid at school that hasn't got the hot thing item, you'll get bullied. If you turn up and go, I like model trains, you're going to get your head kicked in. At least you did at my school. I know that my school wasn't very good. So that's it, really. It's nothing to do with cost, really. I would submit that if you are a family that has a child, I have a child, my little girl, I love her bits, but she has absolute zero interest in trains, model railways, or modelling in general. She's far more interested in her little screens. Don't get me wrong, when I was a kid I loved playing video games, but it wasn't the be all and end all. But unfortunately this is what the kids are into these days, and that doesn't make it any less of a valid interest. We're not trying to punch down on that, it's just what this generation's into. 70, 80 years ago, kids were into pushing hoops with sticks and playing all manner of nonsense games in the woods and getting abducted by 70s entertainers. I can't put that in. So no, I don't think it's just cost. I think there is an issue with kids not coming into the hobby because there's just no interest in the hobby anymore for the youngsters. So what does that leave us? An ageing demographic. Prices are increasing, yes they are, but that affects more us than anyone else. I've got to make sure this train doesn't crash into its own arse. That affects us more than anything else. And then you've got manufacturers and distributors and things that need to keep making money, otherwise they're going to go pop themselves. What do? You need to make so much money a year to pay all your staff and all their families and everything else. What do? Your customer base is literally dying off, and every year you have maybe 1,000 people less to sell your products to. It's already well people like me, the middle-aged, lower middle-aged people coming into the hobby late or whatever, but there's very few youngsters coming into it. Hornby are trying their best with things like play trains, and that's good. A young customer is a loyal customer. I understand that. But then it usually dies out. The interest wanes, and then they get interested into a screen again. And that's it. So costs will, I think, a few things, costs will go up more to make up for the fact they can't sell as many models because there's not as many people to sell a Model 2 anymore. Eventually it will level out, not go down in price. Things never go down in price, but it will level out for a little while, for a long period, like it did before COVID hit. Things were pretty stable for a long time before COVID hit, and then everyone sort of jumped into it, and it's had a bit of a boom, if you will, But like all things that boom, it's going to eventually settle down. Because that demand is now waning, people are losing interest, getting back to their real lives and finding out that model railways isn't actually for them. There we have it, guys. What do you think? What's your opinion? Do you think it really is down to the fact that kids these days just aren't into model railways? They aren't into railways, full stop. Nothing wrong with liking a bit of a computer game every now and again, but practical hobbies certainly seem to be on the downfall, at least for where I'm standing and what I'm being told and what I'm being observed and everything else. You have a young person in your life that, for whatever reason, just doesn't bother with trains. When I've tried to get my kid involved, he just doesn't want to. I'm not going to force her into it. I'm not going to push my likes, wants and desires onto my child. She can do what she wants. She's her own person. She can be interested in whatever she likes and whatever makes her happy, and that is absolutely fine. The same for your young people. Are you a young person yourself watching YouTube, watching this idiot in his cap and his shirt talk about model trains and saying young people aren't into the hobby, and you're sat there going, well, I'm a young person, actually, I am into model trains. Let me know. I want to know what's going on. Although you shouldn't be watching my videos because they're not for children. Adults only. Anyway, Engage Model Railway. Looks really cool. I'm really happy with it. Let's have a look at how I got on building this week and have a look at the few challenges that stressed me out. Shall we say? Yeah. Right, let me make one thing clear. Love model railways, absolutely hate laying track. It's a pain in the arse. I am 6'2", that is a 2-foot reach, and I've no light. I've nowhere to get light on there. I've nowhere to mount a light. I can't go out and get a light. I haven't got a light. I've got a room light, and that's it. So when I'm looming over here, I can't see what I'm doing. This is Engage track, so it's even more fiddly than regular track from double O gauge or O gauge or whatever. So I've been here an hour, maybe a bit longer, and I've managed to make a loop, and that's it. Every time I try and connect that bit up, that bit comes out. So I'm having to solder it. And it's supposed to solder it because it'll want me track. What else am I supposed to do? I can't pin it in place because if I pin it at this end, it'll be uneven at that end. We've got sound decoders that can play the opening door noise and all the irrelevant stuff, but yet the basics of the hobby are still really frustratingly annoying. Ugh. Right, it's now 2.5 hours after I last left you, and I've not got much further really. We've still got, I've tacked the back line down a little bit here, but now we're just getting on to the final bit, connecting that point up, and it's just an effort. People say, well, use flex track because it's better than. There's a lot to be said for Z track because it just clips together, and I've wasted half of my day off now just pissing about trying to get flex. And of course it's broken. So if you look at this bit, if I can look at that bit now, the track has snapped. So there's no way for me to get that right. So that whole piece is going to have to come out. I'm going to have to try and out and put a little miniature bit in the middle of it. Oh. There's got to be an easier way of doing this. Got to be. And they've got a ballasting layer as well. Ballasting, another thing I love. Right, it's now 6:05. I've finally tacked this much track has been done. That's been tacked in place. Nice long train there, by the way. And that's it. That's taken me 5 hours, which is just absolutely insane. Oh, anyway, it's done now. I don't know how stable it is because there's no track power connected to it yet, so I can't run loco because I still need to drill droppers and things because of the insulated rail joiners down there. Once that's all done, I'm going to test it, but that's going to be tomorrow because I'm hungry and tired. So, okay. There we have it then. A little bit later, and we've got a train running. Backman / Graham Forest class 66. A load 15 to be exact. Pico VEA vans, and of course a singular Rapido Conflat P, I think it is. It's all running, touch wood, running well so far. I know these are short wheelbase vans, so I'm just concerned that longer wheelbase things might not be so happy. This bit here I'm not happy about. This is why I don't like FlexTrack, because joining it together can often be a bloody nightmare. And when you've got one piece joined up this end here and one piece joined up that end there, you need to put a bit in the middle, and it involves cutting the end of one of them. And I can never seem to get the fish plates on, even though I've cut them properly and it looks nice. Fish plates just don't seem to want to go onto cut rail, so it's doing me head in. Despite cutting it lengthways or whatever, I mean, looking at the profile of the rail, it looks fine. So you look at that there, they look absolutely spot on. That's what it looks like. That one on the right's a bit knackered, but for the most part they work. So I have just pushed them together and reverted to type and soldered them. It's fine. I mean, there's a little lip there, but it's so small it doesn't even affect these end gauge locos. But I'm just happy now that I can run a train. And as you can see, that back double loop will be essentially a hidden fiddly yard. So I can have, I'd say, four good sized trains parked in that, ready to roll at any one time. And then obviously, depending which train I want to run, I just flip the point, have it coming round, and then while that one's making its way around, I can change the points back or get the second train rolling forward, ready to depart. So when this one starts to leave, I can get the second one going. I'm sure I could automate that with block detection and ABC modules and what have you. But for now, I'm just happy. See, they go over that nicely, nice and good. That then, so that is part of the. Well, I suppose that's the first part, the hard part over. I've got trains running successfully. Class 66, we love the 66. That half of the layout's going to be modern image. This half is going to be 70s, 80s Speedlink era. So you'll notice at the front here we have the makings of a loop. Where are we? There we are. I can't drive backwards. There we are. We've got the makings of a loop. Now, the straight bit of track here is going to be a straight run around. That's fine. But it's the other bit is going to be the gutter loop. So it's a single up and down bidirectional main, and we're gonna. I need to design the sidings now. So the halfway point, which is here, will have a big scenic divide. So this will be old worldy, this will be new worldy. And once I've done all that, and actually decided what I want to do in terms of the Speedlink yard, I want to have in the Speedlink yard, I want to have a place where we can transload things like logs, maybe a little, maybe a small oil terminal. I don't know how that will. I can't find any resources and pictures of what rail freight yards used to look like back in the day. I've looked and looked and looked, and I can't find anything useful. I'd also like a goods yard or a platform so I can unload the VEAs and other goods vans and what have you. But that's by the by. Modern besides easy, just going to be a big virtual quarry where I could put ribble head. That's going to be the full inspiration for it. Not a replica, but the inspiration behind it. So there we are. But I think for this week, that's the end gauge done. I'm just going to watch my Class 66 trundle around for a little bit and just plot and try and think of things to do. So if you've got any suggestions, and if I haven't already started building it, let me know what you think. And how should I design my Speedlink rail freight yard? Let me know, guys. So until next week, take care, be good, like, comment, subscribe, share, all that usual bollocks. And I'll see you all next week. Cheers, bye bye.